Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball. Purdue has done it. They survived yet another absolute battle, taking down the Tennessee Volunteers in the Midwest Regional Final yesterday. But without further ado, let's run it. Wow, here we are. Purdue is moving on to the Final Four for the first time since 1980, taking down Tennessee with a final score of Purdue 72, Tennessee 66. This game was so stressful. Two heavyweight scorers, realistically the two best in all of college basketball this year. And I think the thing that will be most overlooked from this game, we had two guys go for career highs in this game in the Elite Eight to send their program to the Final Four for the first time, either in program history or for the first time in 44 years. When we look back on this game, never forget that. But let's get into the game. From the jump, both teams got going early. Purdue through Zach Edey and Braden Smith, and Tennessee through Dalton Knecht and a couple of different guys getting early buckets. But things got a little nerve-wracking for Purdue 5 minutes in when the beast that is Dalton Knecht woke up. Two straight possessions, two straight threes, and that would start the barrage that was Tennessee's offense for the rest of the game, which was get the ball to Knecht off screens and just watch him go, watch him chuck it. He shot the ball 31 times in this game. And especially in the first half, he was just launching threes, and it seemed like he could not miss. There was a stretch there where I was almost convinced that he was not human. They had two different points where he had threes on back-to-back possessions, and he had 18 first half points. But while Knecht dominated from the outside, Zach Edey owned the paint. He forced Tennessee's two main bigs into two fouls each on his way to getting buckets left and right, made a couple of free throws, and ended up with 19 first half points of his own. Edey did his job. Meanwhile, the best three-point shooting team in the country that averages 41% from deep shot horrendously. Really in both halves, but especially in the first half, going 1 for 8 from beyond the arc, yet Purdue still had the lead going into the break 36-34. Heading into the second half, I was hoping for some Matt Painter halftime adjustment magic, but Dalton Knecht simply did not care. He got right back to launching threes within the first minute. For Purdue, Edey kept on rolling while the threes just continued to brick. At least in the second half, Purdue made two whole threes compared to the one that they made in the first half. But Purdue did what they do best, and that's wear teams down. As the half went on, Edey continued to fight down low, forcing backup big Toby Owaka to foul out. JP Estrella to pick up 3 fouls in 15 minutes and kept getting to the free throw line. Meanwhile, Dalton Knecht finally showed some humanity, missing some shots within the 4-minute mark in key possessions as an Edey dunk put Purdue up by 3, and then following a Lance Jones 3 that put them up by 6. By the time Tennessee looked elsewhere, Purdue had gone up by 8 by the way of a 7-0 run, leaving only a minute 30 left to play for Tennessee to try to find a miracle. After a couple of quick buckets and fouls and some free throws that Purdue was able to make the majority of, the Boilers had wrapped this one up, and the Little Caesars Arena was rocking with all the amazing traveling Purdue faithful in attendance. So many emotions. It was just an amazing moment to be a Purdue fan. But going into some top performers, we have about as elite of top performers as you're ever going to get for Purdue. Obviously, it is the man, the myth, the legend, Zach Edey, with 40 points, a career high on 13 of 21 shooting, 14 for 22 from the free throw line. He shot more free throws than he shot field goals that, of course, counted outside of the ones that he got fouled on. He ended up with 16 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 1 block. Behind him, Purdue at least did have another double-digit score. Fletcher Lawyer came up pretty big down the stretch. He didn't shoot the ball fantastically, but he ended up with 14 points on 4 of 12 shooting. He was 1 for 5 from 3, but clearly no one else on the team could make threes. He was 5 for 6 from the free throw line, though, including some key ones down the stretch that kept Purdue's lead comfortable enough. He ended up with 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Meanwhile, for Tennessee, obviously the spearhead for them, Dalton Knecht. 37 points on 14 of 31 shooting. He shot half of his team's shots. That's crazy. But he ended up going 6 for 12 from 3. So he alone doubled the entirety of Purdue's 3-point totals when it comes to makes. But he was 3 for 4 from the free throw line as well. 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Behind him, Tennessee was struggling. Their second leading scorer was Zakai Ziegler, who ended up with 9, but on a pretty disappointing 3 for 12 field goals, 1 for 8 from the 3-point line, 2 for 5 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, but he did have 8 assists because, of course, he is their main ball handler, their main playmaker. But that was not the kind of game that they wanted out of Zakai Ziegler as a second option. Going into honorable mentions, we have to talk about Braden Smith for Purdue, the way he handled Tennessee's intense on-ball pressure, as well as just the general line that he put up. He only ends up with 9 points on 3 of 6 shooting, but he was 1 for 3 from 3, 2 for 4 from the free throw line, 2 uncharacteristic misses from him there, but he had 7 rebounds and 7 assists, along with 1 steal. And just the fact that he was able to put up such a solid performance and maintain his composure against such a fantastic on-ball defense like Tennessee, he really was a massive component in this game, regardless of what you see on the box score. And for Tennessee, you've got Josiah Jordan-James with 8 points of his own on 3 of 4 shooting. He was 2 for 2 from 3, got 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. So he did a lot in this game, except for score the ball, which, got to be honest, I'm a bit surprised that they didn't go to him a little bit more. We'll talk about that later. Getting into some key team points. For Purdue, it's winning without the 3. It's pretty crazy to me that Purdue found a way to score 72 points and come away with a win against a team and a defense as good as Tennessee, while only going 3 for 15 from 3. They got good looks. It's not like Tennessee did an amazing job defending the 3-point line or anything, but some open looks for good shooters just weren't falling. Mason Gillis got 2 good looks. One of them was completely wide open, missed both. Lawyer goes 1 for 5 with multiple open misses. Jones goes 1 for 4 with some good choice threes and some not so good ones, but you get my point. But Purdue hasn't gotten open looks like this and missed that many in a long time. But they found ways to score by attacking Tennessee's on-ball pressure by driving to the basket, as well as using ball fakes to keep the defense honest before firing the ball into Edey, where they could no longer double team him since they were all too far away, attached to all of their individual matchups. It really is impressive to me that they could find a way to win this type of game without the 3-ball, but hey, they managed to pull it off. Secondly is free throws. Despite Edey shooting 22 of Purdue's 33 free throws, it still isn't promising or optimistic that the Boilers shot 21 of 33 from the free throw line as a team, just 63.6%. Edey himself went 14 for 22, with some of his misses getting worse as the game went on, including a extremely uncharacteristic air ball. But to be fair, he played almost all game. He came out for something like 45 seconds. Tennessee scored on back-to-back possessions, and he went right back in. But if Purdue wants to make it through the Final Four and really have a good shot at competing for the national title, they're going to need to shoot better than 64% from the line, even if they end up shooting 30-plus free throws. As for Tennessee, for Dalton, Knecht and co., it becomes Dalton, Knecht and who? He shot 31 times in this game, as I mentioned before, which is exactly half of the 62 shots taken by the entire Tennessee team. Yet he still outpaced them efficiency-wise, making 14 of 31, while the rest of his team made 10 of 31 combined. A big factor in that was a very poorly timed off game, like I mentioned, by Zakai Ziegler. He went 3 for 12 and 1 for 8 from 3, and he's the guy with the ball in his hands most often that isn't named Dalton Knecht. Outside of him, Josiah Jordan-James and Jordan Gainey both shot 2 for 2 from 3, and you would think that they would have tried to find them more often, especially when Purdue collapsed on Knecht, but they didn't, and nobody else came close to sniffing double digits. So despite Knecht's nearly otherworldly performance, nobody else really stepped up to help, and that's why he had half of his team's shots, more than half of his team's points, and they couldn't crack 70 points still. Secondly, for them is rebounding. For being a top 50 rebounding team in the country, or right around there, Tennessee got killed on the glass in this one. Purdue out-rebounded them 47-26, 13-6 on the offensive glass, and 34-20 on the defensive. There was at least one possession where Purdue got like 3 offensive rebounds in a row before finally getting a shot to fall. In a battle like this, team rebounding is so important, even when Tennessee wants to get out on the break and try to beat Purdue's set defense down the floor. If you can't get a rebound on a miss and are constantly giving up second chance buckets, you're always going to face your opponent's set defense anyway. But when it's all said and done, the Purdue Boilermakers are moving on to the Final Four in Phoenix to take on the 11 seed bid stealers NC State, who have proven they absolutely belong, taking down the likes of the 2 seed Marquette and 4 seed Duke along the way from the South region. The battle of the big boys, DJ Burns Jr. and Zach Edey, is going to be electric, and I can't wait to see how each team tries to handle each other's strengths. I've waited my whole life to watch Purdue play in the Final Four. Some can say they've waited a whole lot longer. So Saturday evening at 6:09 p.m. Eastern, you know where you'll find me in Mackey Arena, glued to the big screen to watch this game with so much of the paint crew rooting from back home. As for Tennessee, the Final Four eludes the Volunteers once again. Still searching for his first Final Four as a coach, Rick Barnes is losing some serious talent in Dalton Knecht, along with some other key players that will just be so hard to replace. Who knows when Tennessee will make it to the promised land to their first Final Four as a program, but it won't be this year. But that's all I've got for today. We finally made it to the Final Four. Purdue is still very much alive, so the recaps will keep coming on top of our predictions the rest of the way and so much more as the college basketball season comes to a close. So if you like what you're seeing or you want us to cover something specific, let us know. Leave a comment down below. As always, we sleep in May. But until then, like and subscribe for more college basketball content. And until next time, I'm out.